Many people yearn to find their purpose, feeling lost because they don't know what their purpose is. Why is the definition of purpose so important to us? Is there something bad that happens to us on spirit level if we don't find our purpose? And what is our highest level purpose? Today we discuss what true higher level purpose is, how to find it, and what it means to embody higher level purpose. And after the discussion, we get to the most important part. The group frequency calibration associated with this episode is where the frequency work happens and where change actually occurs. So be sure to listen to that. Without releasing distortion patterns targeted by the GFC, the change you want will be more difficult to attain because you haven't addressed the root of the issue. If you like this episode, please hit like and share it with a friend. My name is Karen Cheong, and today in Mastering Your World Through Frequencies, we're discussing your higher purpose, the key to fulfillment.
Okay, higher purpose. Yeah. Do you know, for long enough, I thought that I had one higher purpose.
Yeah.
And, I was going to find the cure for cancer, save the whales, be Jesus, reborn, all these grandiose higher purpose.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's not what you mean.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people think of purpose as something they have to find. Mm-hmm. There's only one in this lifetime, and that often they have to do it for their vocation, meaning that they have to, for their work, do their purpose. Or if you're going to save the whales, you would work for the Save the Whale organization, or if you're going to save the rainforest, you would work for the Save the Rainforest people. So there's a lot of this kind of this idea that we have to find it, and if we don't in this lifetime, somehow we'll have failed because we don't find our purpose, or that our lives will be empty and meaningless. Often that's the fear that I've noticed for people. And the funny thing is that all of that story with regards to purpose often is just the mind. So the mind is seeking certainty, if I find my purpose, then finally I'll be fulfilled or happy or whatever, fill in the blank, awake, whatever it is, yes? Mm-hmm. And so it's the mind seeking that kind of certainty. And that's why people can feel terribly lost, because they're well, I haven't found it. I don't even know what it is. I don't even know where to begin. So does that mean then my life is meaningless? And so it can be really kind of devastating for people.
I was just going to ask you about that, because oftentimes, well, for me, it was about finding purpose for this life.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's my purpose.
Exactly. What's the point of me being here?
Yeah.
So we also think that if we find our purpose and it has an impact on people, because there are people who are very service-oriented, they want to help other people, which is really awesome. And they feel like if they finally find their purpose and they're able to help other people, then their purpose will be fulfilled.
Yeah.
They'll be in service. Okay. So it's interesting because that's also the mind being well, if I actually help somebody and I can see that I have a positive impact for them, therefore I feel good because I can see that what I've done is good in the world. Now I'm not saying that doesn't have value, but it's interesting because that's what the mind tells you is so important. It tells you if they have positive impact, you are good. Mm-hmm. You have found your purpose. You're living your best life. It's a kind of a funny thing, the mind. It kind of likes that certainty. So,
and I think at the same time, it feeds into that self-worth, right?
Yes.
It's that same kind of thing. Oh, I helped them.
Yeah.
They value it. Therefore, I am of value.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
That's right.
Exactly.
That's what
you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it means that I am valuable, and I am certain that I'm valuable because they've just told me so.
They've just confirmed it.
Exactly.
Got you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So what I'm talking about, or what we're talking about in this particular episode, is higher purpose. And higher purpose to me is beyond the mind. Okay. So meaning beyond the mind's need for that kind of certainty, that kind of validation, that kind of thank you so much for helping me, the pat on the back, the confirmation that you're doing a good job. That's all of what the mind needs. I'm not saying it's not valuable, because it can be. But what I'm saying is a higher purpose truly doesn't require that kind of confirmation.
Yeah.
It doesn't require that kind of certainty from the mind for it to know that it has done a good job. So to me...
All right, sorry, can I interrupt?
Sure.
Just before we go to the higher purpose.
Yeah.
Because for me, I can feel a question, okay, yes, it's possibly not
Yeah.
the healthiest to need that confirmation or validation.
Yeah.
So where does community fit in?
Ah.
Because you want to be valuable in your community.
Of course.
And there's a purpose to help. And
Yes.
it feels like that.
Yes.
So there is a difference, right?
Yes. So this to me would be like service without attachment.
Uh-huh.
So meaning that you're in neutrality. So you're putting your best foot forward. You're serving because you're called to, not because of what anyone else thinks of you, but you truly feel like, yes, this is how I can serve. This is how I can help. This is how I fulfill the unique expression of myself at the highest order. So I'm called to give this kind of service. I contribute in this way. That's wonderful, right? So now you're giving, but you're not doing it because you need the appreciation. You're doing it because you feel like you're called to and you can, and it gives you pleasure to serve in this way, to contribute in this way. And the community aspect is when that energy comes back to you of like, oh, that appreciation for your work, it's like, it's wonderful that appreciation is there. It's lovely. It feels, it feels nice, but you also, your self-worth isn't reliant on it. That's the thing. Or that you are doing it because you want that appreciation from them.
Yeah,
Make
yeah.
sense?
I do. We have a dear friend, he's passed away now, and he used to say, sometimes there is just the right thing to do.
Oh, of course.
And for us, that's how I can tell the difference. It's like you're in community and you just have to step up and do it because it's for the community, it's for the greater good, it's for the collective.
Yeah.
It's not for you.
Exactly.
It's for the collective. It's the right thing to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And so in those moments, you're not doing it you're doing it because you feel called to the higher resonating purpose of like, this feels like the highest resonance and I happen to be the one who is in motion with it.
Yeah.
If anyone else doesn't recognize it, meaning like, you did such a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Internally, you have fulfilled that for
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
You have acted in integrity. You have acted in the highest resonance of yourself to be at the highest level of order to serve the greatest good, right? But it's for you. It's not for everybody else. Does that make sense?
Totally, and I think this would segue us into the higher purpose. I also understand there are times when I don't want to do it, but I know it's my time to step up, and I'm going to do it regardless because it's the right thing to do. And by right thing, I mean somehow inside of me, I've tapped into something that has pushed me into a position where it's my turn.
Yes.
And for no other reason that it's my turn now.
Yes.
So I think that's the segue into the next question. Well, how do you know when it's higher purpose?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. It's funny, I kind of feel like that about what I do in a way.
Yeah.
It's like my turn.
Yeah.
And it's funny, my husband Chris and I talk to each other. We're like, if we'd won the lottery, right, and we had like millions of dollars, right, and money's not a concern anymore, would we still do this? Yes, absolutely, without hesitation, because I know this is how I serve.
Yeah.
Even when we began, and we had like my mom and 4 other people on a call, because that's how you begin. I was like, it doesn't matter because I know it's serving the highest good. You see, because it's not. For me, it was like, this is what I'm called to do. And the highest resonating order, and just like you said, it's my turn. This is how I serve.
Yeah.
And so I think for the highest purpose, though, or the higher purpose is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That is when we recognize, or we have this realization, and it usually is associated with how high your vibration is, or how high your frequency resonance is, that really what your higher purpose is to embody the higher and higher and higher level of frequency resonance that you can be, the higher levels of vibration, because that level of vibration of your beingness serves whatever you want to call it, the oneness, the one, the all that is, the one infinite creator, whatever you want to call that very highly vibrating consciousness from which everything derives and to which everything returns. You're in service to that. Yeah. And as a result of you being in service to that, all beings ascend. Because you, whether you're aware of your impact on any individual being, whether you're aware of the ripple effect of what you do, exactly, you're aware that by you being your best self, your highest frequency vibration, that is enough. And that is everything, actually, in allowing all beings to ascend. So it's kind of like, it's like you said, it's your turn. It's just like you realize, but the thing is, I'm just backing up a little bit. You realize it's not because you need to be recognized for it, or thanked for it, or people know your name for it. It's not about any of that. No. It's simply because you're in service at this higher level order, and that's enough.
Yeah, I like to describe it for myself as being motivated to be the best version of myself.
Exactly.
And each situation that arises for me to do that, that's when it's my turn.
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is a moment where I need to rise to the occasion.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
And be and step into a higher resonating frequency, or at least learn how to.
Exactly.
And this is this moment where I can capture that.
Yeah.
And figure out how to do that or do it.
Yeah,
One or
exactly.
the other.
Totally. And I think I think you raise a really beautiful point. It's like sometimes you're able to move into that higher resonating vibration, that higher resonating frequency resonance, and you just are it.
Yeah.
And that is beautiful. And sometimes it feels like we're failing, right? Because we're like, oh man, we totally screwed up there, or all your little self-worth stuff goes off, or you're beating yourself up, or self-judgment comes in, or whatever, blah, 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 it goes on in your head.
Yeah.
But in the recognition of all that stuff, and to release those distortion patterns, and then the subsequent rising of your frequency resonance, that also is fulfilling your higher purpose because you're moving into a higher vibrational rate.
Yeah. And I think just to say yes to it.
Yeah.
When that opportunity arises, or when you realize that, okay, it's time to notch it up now.
Yeah.
We've gotten too comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's kind of self-driven. Okay, I want to be the best version of me. Okay, so now I need to ratchet up. What's
Ratchet
the
it up.
phrase? Ratchet it up. Yeah. And be open and surrender and submit that kind of brain.
Yeah.
And move into that higher purpose flow, I call it.
Yeah.
Where, okay, I'm being called here.
Yes.
It might not be that you're going to do anything significant, but at this moment in time, this situation is allowing me to learn how to rise and let go a little bit more, right?
Exactly.
I think.
And all you have to do is be willing to follow that call and to notice what happens in your frequency resonance and what you need to do in order for that frequency resonance or your vibrational level to rise.
Yeah.
Because stuff is going to come up internally in terms of how you feel, what you say to yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, how your body responds. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't really serving anyone, including me. So how can I transcend? How do I release the distortions that are keeping me in this lower state where I think I'm not enough, or I can't, or I'm a victim, or I'm disempowered, or whatever the thing is. So by you moving up, I just want to make this really clear, by you seeing all that, being accountable, being aware, and then doing the work to release distortions and your frequency resonance rising, it serves the all that is. Because in one individual's rising in vibration or frequency resonance, there's a massive ripple effect out into the one, which allows consciousness to rise, which allows other beings to enter into a higher resonance. It's a ripple effect. It's hard for me to describe, but it's massive.
Yeah.
And we think like, oh, we're just doing our personal work. You are doing your personal work, and you're affecting the all that is.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the higher and higher in resonance you become, the higher in vibration you become, the mind stuff of like being thanked and appreciated is lovely. Okay, I'm not suggesting that it's not nice to receive any of those things, but that's not what
It's not
the driver.
necessary
Yeah,
anymore.
it's not the driver. It's not required. It's not necessary. It's nice, but that's not why you are who you are. Because it's not about what you do. It's who you are, right? It's being, like you said, you have the opportunity to be the best version of yourself at any moment in time. What are you choosing?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Exactly. Yeah. And coming back to your point that, all that stuff can come up. But for me as well, watching the impact on the collective, whether it's a larger group or just my family, when I'm in distortion, thick in distortion and density, and I watch the prickliness or, the volatility of it and the impact it has on my family, for me in that moment, I realize, well, if that's the negative side, what's the positive side?
Exactly.
When I'm in a higher resonating frequency and I'm in gratitude and I'm in flow and I can feel that the gift in the moment.
Yeah.
How does that impact? Because
Yeah.
I've seen what the negative does.
True.
So if for anybody that's there struggling, well, how does me looking after me serve the greater collective? Well, just look what happens in your family when you're in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Or just look what happens when you're friends.
Yeah.
And you're in a bad mood.
Yeah. And conversely, if you're walking down the street and you're in a good mood and you happen to go to the grocery store and you chat for a little bit with the guy who's bagging your groceries,
Yep.
you never know the ripple effect of that conversation. It could be that that person was like suicidal that day, and that day, because of that conversation with you, that didn't happen. You don't know what the ripple effect of that person's life is, or perhaps like they feel well enough that that day they're more present for their kid.
Yeah.
And that kid needed it that day because they needed more confidence in order to do better in that test. And in that test, they were able then to go to a college they wouldn't have been able to, I don't know, whatever. You
Yeah,
see,
you don't know the knock-on effect.
you don't know what the ripple effect is, but it can be really, really huge. And the thing is, as you say, there's the negative ripple effect, but that positive ripple effect, even if you don't necessarily see it in these random moments with strangers, can be really catalytic. You don't even know what it could be.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, totally. And I think just to sort of the take home from this kind of conversation, to be able to identify when you're actually in the higher purpose, which is, you know, really coming back to yourself,
Yeah.
raising that frequency resonance, how to identify the difference. And for me, the take home would be, well, if you're looking for accolades or outside validation, then you're not really, you know,
Yeah.
in that higher resonating purpose or
Yes.
flow or universal flow, whatever we want to call it,
Yeah.
right? And when you're not looking for it, like you're literally doing it because you know it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
You know, internally it's the right thing to do for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about anybody else. You just know that I've got to do this because it's going to help me grow.
Yeah.
Right? And then, you know, when people start to thank you, you're like, oh, all right, I did do something good there. Oh, okay. Oh, it's kind of an indication, right, that you were moving into the higher purpose. As opposed to the,
Yeah.
and I did something good. Tell me I'm a good girl.
Exactly. And the thing is, the other thing to look for is if you're doing it because it's like, oh, thank God, I finally know what my purpose is.
Yeah.
If there's that kind of relief, that's your mind. Because you're like, oh, well, now I can tell everyone what my purpose is. You know, I can tell my mom she can finally stop worrying. I finally found my thing. And like people can feel like I'm all right. If you're thinking that could be one of the purposes you have in this life. It could be. And it's not truly a higher level purpose.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, it's funny. Everyone thinks that the higher level purpose is necessarily going to feel good right across the bat, you know? But sometimes it's hard because you're human and you can sometimes feel that what is the right thing, as you call it, right?
Yeah.
Or that higher level calling, that higher level of version of you that is like, come on, you can do it, come on, right? And then there's the you that's human, you're like, oh, but if I do this, it's going to be so much work, and then what are people going to think of me? And then like, God, it just seems so sticky, and I don't know if I can do that, right? You know, you have all these whatever you're thinking. You're like, all right, whatever, screw it. I'm just going to do my best and do it.
Yeah, surrender.
Surrender and go. And even if you quote unquote fail, it doesn't matter.
You haven't really.
No, exactly.
Right, because you stepped up.
You stepped up.
And you put yourself out there and you did it because you knew it was what had to be done.
Exactly. And so that in itself is fulfilling your higher purpose. So I think that people make it a lot more complicated than it is. And they also strap a lot of, like I said, that certainty around it from the mind of like wanting that confirmation. So
And
I think,
also, could I come to another question?
Please.
A lot of people think they have one higher purpose.
Oh, I know.
And,
Yeah,
you know,
true.
as a mother, even just in that journey, I have to be something at this particular age. And then as they get a little bit older, I have to be a different kind of a parent. So it got me thinking, like, in the old days, you had one job until you retired. And then I'm thinking, well, is there such a thing as one higher purpose,
No.
thing? Yes, the journey, the one higher purpose for me now is how do I be a better version, or the best version? Poco and poco, step by step.
Yeah.
That's it, the end. So maybe that is the one higher purpose.
Yes. Yes. And how that version of you that you can embody, that's the highest version of you in that moment, is going to change.
It's going to change.
As you rise in your frequency resonance. But for me, I think that there is that sort of overarching purpose of you being the best version, the highest resonating version possible. What that will look like, what your experience will be, how you serve, how you contribute will look different at those different frequency resonances. So to me, it's like there's a greater possibility of purpose in each of those resonances.
Got
Make
you.
sense?
Yes,
So-
total sense.
Yeah.
Awesome conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those of you who want to move towards this higher level purpose and becoming aware of and experiencing it, then I suggest that you listen to the GFC associated with this episode. And if you've liked this episode, please subscribe by hitting the red button. We're about to start the group frequency calibration, or GFC, where we actually do the frequency work and where change is catalyzed. To get to the GFC, click on the square that'll appear to the right or the link in the description below. It's time to bring in a new experience, a new consciousness, and a new world. Let's rise together.